Welcome to The Beautiful Bag. This is your host, Leanne Hayden, cancer survivor, and more importantly, ostomy lifer. Each and every week, I'm going to be bringing a special guest or some inspiration for you and a few little stories along the way so that you can learn what life is like for us to be living in an ostomy and why we all think it's a beautiful bag. So listen in and let's get started. These testimonials are representative of my or our experiences, but the exact results and experience will be unique and individual to each person. The information provided herein is not medical advice and is not intended to substitute for the advice of your personal physician or other healthcare providers. Well, hello, everybody. It's been a few weeks. I finished up my Italy trip, came home, and got the stomach bug. So I kind of postponed doing a lot of things. I'll tell you, and we're going to talk about the last couple of weeks on my Italy trip, where I went, what I did, and some of the great things that I learned about traveling abroad and doing a lot of things that, I don't know, sometimes maybe we feel that we can't do, or we may be a little afraid to do. And, the last 2 weeks of my trip were absolutely amazing. I mean, the whole being away for almost a month was absolutely great. As you guys know, I talked about Rome. I talked about the yoga retreat. I talked about, being in the Amalfi Coast. Well, I left the Amalfi Coast and went to Florence. And when I was going to Florence and when I had planned this trip, I was doing the trip by myself. So a little bit that's been going on with me over the last few months is, a year and a half ago, we moved back from New York City, moved back to Manchester, and have been, spending time with family and things like that. And I have a few businesses, online businesses and whatever, that I've been working on. But lately, in the last 6 months or so, I've kind of felt like I need to either do something else or not do what I'm currently doing. The podcast in itself, I love doing this podcast. I love interviewing everything about my ostomy advocacy is really, truly important to me. My online business became that I was a part of, that I've been a part of for over a decade, was becoming not so important to me. So I'm like, it's time for me to go away and really kind of sit with what I want to do. So the whole plan of the trip was to go by myself, right? Spend a few days in Rome, go to the yoga retreat, spend a few days in Amalfi, and basically come home. Well, as I kept thinking, I'm there. So I've already flown over there and I really want to see Florence. And I've already flown over there and I really want to see Venice. So I extended. And funny thing is 2 weeks prior to 3 weeks prior to me going on the trip, I had gone to New York City. John and I had gone to New York City, where I had met so I was sitting in a bar and John was working and I was having a glass of wine and this woman was sitting next to me and we got to talking. And I don't know about you, but I've always, as you can tell probably, I'm a very open person. I like to make friends. I like to get to know people. I like to get to know what makes people tick. And so her and I just got to talking and we ended up spending, while John worked, her and I ended up going to the Met together. We went out had lunch together, and then we went to a Yankees Red Sox opening day game together, and it was really funny. And I was telling her about my Italy trip and how I was going alone. And she had said that this is something that she really wanted to travel abroad. And it was really something that she wanted to do. She's my age, older kids. She can do this now. And so I said, well, join me in Italy. So here I am traveling around basically by myself, and I'm meeting up with this woman who I had just met. So when I left the Amalfi Coast, I get to Florence and she's there, right? Her plane had landed. She was doing what I was doing. We were just waiting for each other at the train. She was waiting for me at the train station. And so I get to Florence and here's this woman I don't know. She kind of knows my situation, but she doesn't really know what an ostomy is. She doesn't know, not that that's defines who I am, but she doesn't know a lot about me. We don't know a lot about each other. So let me tell you, her and I had a blast together. It was so much fun. Florence, if you have not been to Florence, it has to be on your list. I could live there. It's so clean. It's so friendly. There's so much to do. There's so much to see. And you can get to just about anything from Florence. Like you could take a day trip to Venice if you wanted to. You could go to Bologna. You can go into Chianti. You can go to Siena or some of the other smaller villages, right? You can get around. You can get into Tuscany, in other areas in Tuscany and do these day trips from Florence. So Florence is an absolutely beautiful city. And some of the things that her and I ended up doing together were, we shopped a lot. It's known for its leather goods, so we shopped a lot. But we also did things like we took a day trip. We took a half a day trip and went to two different villas in Chianti and went to vineyards. And I love wine. I've always loved wine for as long as I can remember. And I'm a big advocate of, having your glass of wine. And but I've never been to a vineyard, and everybody was shocked about that. So we went to a couple of vineyards. I have wine on its way, and then we went to. Then one day we did a full day excursion. We went out to Siena and San Gimignano, and then we went to see Pisa. I was a little disappointed in Pisa. It's just a leaning tower, but the rest of it is all commercialized. So I could take it off my list. But anyways, we did do all that. And then one day we spent cooking. And so we went and took an Italian cooking class. And what that did for me on that trip, what I realized, taking the Italian cooking class, learning how to cook, I love to cook. I love to create recipes. I love to eat clean. I love to be healthy. And I love my vegetables. And as we know, some of us, and we've talked about this on the show before, some of us with ostomies have a hard time, eating vegetables. So how do you cook them? How do you prepare them? How do you eat properly? And how do you make sure you get the proper nutrition? So it really made me start to think how much I love to cook. So literally I've been home for almost 2 weeks now, and I've been cooking up a storm. I've been making homemade pasta, but I've been baking, and I've been cooking with a ton of vegetables. So I'm going to come up with a bunch of recipes for us, and I'll put them out on my blog, so that if you want to try, and if there's some things that you want to try out, I will give you the instructions. I'll have the recipes up on the blog. So if you want to pay attention over at leannhayden.com, and you want to sign up for the emails, you can get that there too. So there's that. But one of the things that I found interesting with traveling with Tanya was she didn't know what an ostomy was. And it gets me thinking about how many people do not really truly know what we go through. And I know a lot of you out on social media, you put it out there. Like you put out there, pictures of you in your bag, and some people show bag changes, and some people show what their stoma is, and what's the difference, what's the difference between an ostomy and a stoma? What's the stoma? And so she asked me, she's like, what is it? And I went through, and I realized how many people just don't know. And I said, well, it's, they cut a hole in your stomach and they pull your intestine through, and then they sew your intestine to that hole, right? And so you have a piece of your intestine hanging out. So when they talk about appliances, it's the flange that sticks on your skin, and the bag that I have that clips over the stoma to collect anything that comes out. And she goes, oh my goodness, I always thought it was something mechanical, something like a tube or something that they put in there to get it out. She goes, I had no idea what it was. And it really opened her eyes to what people, what we go through, what people with ostomies go through. And she was grateful for me just explaining it. And it just, it makes me think the advocacy that we do, us talking about it a lot, really does break the stigma. So keep talking about it out there, guys. Keep talking about it because it's very, very, very important. And, it really kind of forged this friendship between her and I, where again, I had only known her I had met her 3 weeks before I left, and then I was gone for 2, and then I meet her, in Florence, and we spend an entire week together. We do all this fun, great things together in Florence, and then we take a train and we go to Venice. And I spent 3 nights in Venice. She spent a couple with me, and then she had to leave. But I spent 3 nights in Venice, and then which was great. Venice is dreamy. It's definitely a place you need to see. I probably could have done it in a night for myself. Florence is more my style. Florence, the Amalfi Coast, Rome, even the yoga retreat area. But Venice, you have to, if you get a chance, you have to see it. Like I said, you can do it as a day trip from Florence at some point in time. But guys, it made me also think, so on top of knowing that our advocacy and speaking about what an ostomy is so important. Also made me think of, and then also me finding my love to cook and bake again. Really, really was fun by being there. But the other piece too was traveling around the world. And there's so much to this world that personally for me, I haven't seen. So it really made me think about how I want to start to travel a lot more and start to do more things internationally. And I guess in the back of my mind, I didn't realize this until I started really thinking about it. I was a little worried about going to other countries with my ostomy. I've traveled all over the United States. I've gone to Hawaii. I've gone all over the last 6.5 years, all over the US, but I hadn't left the country. And I didn't realize that. So it really made me think, you know what, going into other countries, what are some of the things that we need to be really cognizant of, right? One, what happens if we get a blockage? How to make sure you have your extra insurance, right? Make sure you have your insurance with you because things can happen. What happens if you have diarrhea? Like I said, you guys know what happened to me in Rome. I had that one night that I leaked in my hotel room, right? I had the wrong flange on. I had one that I didn't normally wear. But, what do you do in those situations, right? What do you do in those situations, and how can you travel, and how can we travel more without worry and concern? So some of the things that I would say, and some of the things that I put into practice is I packed double the amount of products that I needed. I was gone for 25 days, and typically a bag will last me 2 days, right? It'll typically 2-3 days. The flanges will last me 3-4 days. But what I did is I packed 50 bags. So just in case something happened, and I split them into 2 suitcases. And if you hadn't listened to that podcast of me prior to leaving, you might want to go back and listen to that. But I did pack, double the amount of products that I needed, double the amount of flanges, triple the amount of flanges. I'm like, flanges are small. Let me just take, I was gone for 3 weeks, and I took, I think, almost 20. Just in case something happened, or just in case I lost a bag, and I split them between a couple of bags that I had. But then, if we are in other countries and we do forget our supplies and something does go wrong, other countries do have hospitals as well that you can get supplies from. Someone had told me that. So if ever you're in trouble and you're in another country, you can go to one of the hospitals and they do have some supplies. And most countries actually have Amazon, guys, seriously. So you can even overnight some stuff to yourself. And then the other thing you want to also make sure of, and I just mentioned this a little while ago, is traveler's insurance. You want to make sure you take out traveler's insurance in case something goes wrong. Now, every country, they will take, if you get sick, if something happens, the hospitals will take care of you. But, having the travel insurance will just give you that little extra bit of security. So taking out the travel insurance is another suggestion for what you do. And then some of the other tips, some of the other things that I even realized about myself is water, right? I told you guys on the days in Rome, I got dehydrated and I needed to catch up with my water. So it really was, because some of the days were really hot and I didn't drink enough water and I was doing a lot of walking. So making sure that you're staying hydrated and keeping yourself hydrated and, enjoying yourself, but also taking care of your health as well is just another suggestion, just another tip of something that I would do. And then guys, don't be afraid to travel. Don't be afraid to go. Don't be afraid to do it, especially if there's places that you want to see in this world. Bucket list stuff, start to make them happen. Traveling right now, especially even flying over Europe, is cheaper than flying around the United States right now if you're from the States. So take advantage of it. Take advantage of seeing things that you want to see. As we all know, because we've all been through a situation that has been life-changing, is that, it's cliche to say this sometimes, but life can be short, and we know life can be short. So, don't miss out on the things that you want to do in this lifetime. So I'm already planning another trip out of the country. I'm in the process of working on that. I will keep you guys posted on where that trip's going to be. But guys, Italy, I came back, my heart is full, my soul is full, my belly is full, my pants are a little tight, don't care. But it's definitely a place, if you have not been to, that you need to put on your list. And I will say Rome from the history, Florence for its beauty, Venice for its uniqueness, Amalfi Coast. Guys, Amalfi Coast is just stunningly beautiful, very romantical. So, like I said in my last podcast, I'll be bringing John with me to that one. But get it if it's on your bucket list, get it planned and do it. And if you need any suggestions or places to stay, I Airbnb the entire way. Had great experiences with the Airbnbs. I did do a couple of hotels. Oh, my last night, guys. So I leave Venice. My last night, I have to spend a night in Rome because I was flying out the next day and the next morning. So I get to Rome and I had booked this bed and breakfast place. It's a B&B. And they said it was across from the Coliseum. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. So I get there. It's in a building. It looks like an office building, which is totally fine, beautiful. I get in there. I open my door. He opens the door to my room. He opens the shutters. I could not believe the view that I had for my last night. It was absolutely the most beautiful way to end it. So I looked out the window. There's a single palm tree, just right out my window. And then if I turn my head, it is the entire, you can see half of the Coliseum, the most important, the part that you see pictures of the Coliseum, along with Palestine Hill and all the way over to the road, like that whole area. And I watched the sunset. I did a video of it, I put it out on social media. I watched the sunset and the Coliseum just light up and everything just light up around it. And it was absolutely a magical way to end the trip. So I want to thank you guys for taking the trip with me, for being along for the ride while I did do a couple of podcasts, and for hanging in there with me while I took a couple of weeks off from doing some podcasts. But I just, I appreciate you guys. And so next week, I'm going to talk about how I came home and I got the stomach bug, and how in the world do we handle a stomach bug with an ostomy? And I will tell you that story next week. And then we will get back to some wonderful interviews because I have a few people lined up to interview and tell their story. And as always, if you have a story to tell, if there's something you want to hear or you have a story to tell, just go over to my website, leannehayden.com, and shoot me an email. And we will get you on the show, either that or go to Instagram. If you're following me on Instagram, if not, you can go to Instagram, find me on Instagram, Leanne Hayden. And under the link, you can send me a request as well to be on the podcast. So hopefully I hear from you, and we will talk next week. Bye-bye now. Thank you so much for joining us this week. If you enjoyed this podcast, get the behind the scenes at leannehayden.com/ostomy updates. And also, if you found this episode encouraging, please screenshot it and share it on Instagram. And don't forget to tag me and also the person who was on the episode with me. I occasionally will do special gifts for anyone who does do a screenshot and share it on Instagram or in your stories. Also, lastly, please go to Apple or Google, rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast to keep up with them every single week. I enjoy you guys. Thank you so much for being here.